I work as a vice worker for a local authority, and I'm a member of Unison. And this meeting tonight is organised by the Trade Union Group within the Green Party. It's basically, we're all committed to the principles of trade unionism in this group, and we would hope that other people might, if they're not already members, might sign up to go on the mailing list and get involved in the Trade Union Group, because I think nearly everybody in the Green Party is either a member of a trade union or at least in favour of the principles of trade unionism. So it's basically an open membership, no fee required, and I'd certainly encourage everybody to join. But I also have to give credit where credit's due to the trade union movement, and I bring good news really. Let me read the text of an emergency resolution, which is trade union policy. It talks about, in relation to the Welfare Reform Bill, the vast majority of people who are excluded from the labour market are victims of economic forces beyond their control. They need to support to get jobs, not penalties. There's no need for privatisation or contracting out. We need a strong and compassionate public employment service to help those who find it difficult to get jobs. It then goes on to talk about its opposition to the proposals for the abolition of income support, its opposition to the proposed introduction of an obligation to work for benefits, to compulsory training, to the privatisation, to cutting benefits for lone parents, and requiring all parents of young children to seek work, and the general privatisation of the service. Okay, it then goes on to instruct the General Council, the TUC, to respond against these proposals in the strongest possible terms, opposing the proposals, and to support the PCS, that's the Public Services Union, support the PCS's campaign against privatisation of existing job centre staff. So it's all good stuff and it's very hard hitting. It instructs the General Council to organise the widest possible opposition to the proposals within the trade union movement and within the wider community. And it said quite clearly that the campaign should include a national conference, a lobby of Parliament, and rallies against the proposals in every region of the country. So it's a very good resolution. There's only one problem with it. It was a resolution that was passed at last year's Trade Union Congress. You know, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't get much of an impression of a campaign. I know that there was a lobby of Parliament, and I understand it was quite successful. And I'm not in any sense criticising the trade union leadership or the organisation, but it's an indication of the way that a trade union movement needs to be more than about resolutions. A very good resolution, I don't think it's resonated. Okay? And I think it's a wider indication of a general problem with trade unionism in this country. I actually went on the website of last year's Trade Union Congress prior to this meeting, and there's a whole series of policies which are really excellent. There's policies in defence of public ownership, there's policies in defence of progressive taxation, and in defence of public services generally, and in defence of trade union rights and civil liberties, and just about every single decent thing, everything that, as a socialist, I would agree with. There's a fine set of policies. But policies are one thing, and putting them into practice is sadly, you know, something altogether different. And the point I want to make is that our task is to basically do what we can to improve the fighting strength of trade unionism in this country. I would say that an initial first step would be to get involved in the trade union group within the Green Party, and then which gives you the opportunity to raise issues that the Green Party supports and that the trade union group within the Green Party supports within the trade unions. And let's see the Trade Union Congress becoming a fighting organisation rather than just one that passes resolutions. There's an enormous challenge for trade unionism in Britain, and there's everything to be gained. For instance, I don't know whether people know, how old do you think the average trade union is? The average trade unionist is 46 years old. Okay, so think about that as an indication. Only 1 in 10 of workers under 25 are members of trade unions. The trade unions doesn't really encourage people to be involved in trade unions once they lose their job. So people who are being made redundant lose their trade union membership effectively because I don't think they get free membership. I'm not aware of that. So all of those things need to change, and I would hope that the trade union campaign within the trade union group within the trade union within the Green Party would play an important part of that in that, and I would encourage people to join. We're starting tomorrow. There's an emergency resolution on the agenda of conference supporting the campaign against the enforced deportation of the workers at SOAS. I don't know whether people know about that. A bunch of Latin American cleaners were in a trade union meeting in their university where they work. It was raided with the support of the university authorities by the immigration officers, and people were on a plane in no time at all. And there's a resolution tomorrow supporting the stand of the Green Party elected members in London, who came out very strongly against what went on. And that's the first thing that we're going to do this year, and let's go from there.
So if anyone has any questions, would you like to raise your hand, please? Giles?
I'm just interested about the lack of young people who are members of trade unions. I was wondering whether you happen to know what proportion of people who work in call centres belong to a trade union. I mean, my perception is that conditions in call centres are generally not very good, and there's quite often a lot of young people working in those areas.
I don't know the figures, but I would suspect it was very low. It's very low in the private sector. Most of the trade unions that remain, most organised trade unions are in the public sector, or at least in the former public sector. And in the private sector, I think it's 1 in 30% of workers are members of trade unions.